You know, for more than a decade now, the European Union and Google have been locked in this epic, heavyweight battle. But here's the thing, this isn't just about the fines anymore. The entire rulebook has been torn up. So, what's going on? Why, after all this time, has the fight totally changed? Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, let's start with the sheer scale of the conflict. I mean, look at this number. 8.2 billion euros. That is a staggering amount of money. And that's how much the EU has hit Google with in fines from just 3 huge antitrust cases over the past decade. We're talking record-breaking penalties that were supposed to send a really powerful message. But here's the crazy part. Despite all that cash, this number, 90%, it just hasn't moved. Google's search market share in Europe has stubbornly stayed right around that mark. Which brings us to the big multi-billion euro question, right? Were these massive fines actually working? Or was this all just, another cost of doing business for Google in Europe? Okay, so to really get why things are so different now, we've got to rewind a little bit. Let's look at the old playbook, those 3 historic fines that pretty much defined the first phase of this whole battle. So this table really breaks it down and shows you the EU's whole strategy. Up top, you've got the Google shopping case. The EU basically said, hey, you're burying your rivals in search results. And yeah, that fine stuck. Then you've got the monster in the middle, Android. This is the big one, the one that gave us that choice screen you see when you set up a new phone. But now, check out the bottom row, AdSense. This is what's really interesting. It was a huge win for Google. A massive fine actually got overturned, which just proves this was never a totally one-sided fight. But see, all that stuff, that was just round 1. The EU eventually realized that just handing out fines wasn't solving that 90% problem. So they pulled out a whole new weapon, a real game changer. It's called the Digital Markets Act, or the DMA. And this slide just nails the difference. See, the old way was all about looking backwards. You'd investigate something for years and then finally slap on a fine for something that happened in the past. The DMA, it's completely different. It's proactive. It's not about punishment anymore. It's a straight-up list of rules, a bunch of do's and don'ts that the biggest tech companies have to live by every single day. So what does this new rulebook actually mean for a company like Google? Well, it means they officially get a brand new and a pretty loaded title. Right. The EU has now officially labeled Google a gatekeeper. And look, this isn't just some fancy name, it's a real legal status. It means because they're so massive, so powerful in the market, they're now held to a much stricter set of rules. They kind of don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. So the key takeaway here is that Google now has this list of rules they have to follow. And number 1 is the big one. No more self-preferencing. What does that mean? Well, if you search for a flight, Google is now legally banned from just sticking its own Google Flight service right at the top. The rules also push for more choice for you, the user, and as we're about to see, the penalties for breaking these rules are just on a whole other planet. I mean, just look at this chart. It's wild. The biggest fine they ever got under the old system was a little over 4 billion euros. A lot of money, right? But under the DMA, the penalties can go up to 10 or even 20% of a company's total global revenue. This is designed to be an existential threat, not just some expense you can write off on your taxes. And yeah, this isn't some far-off theory. The DMA is happening right now, and it's fueling new fights and pushing this whole battle into brand new territory. And you can see the effect right here on this timeline. I mean, the pace has just exploded. Since the DMA kicked in, we've seen a new probe into that self-preferencing stuff, another multi-billion euro fine, this time for ad tech, and a whole new investigation into search ads. The pressure is just relentless now. And today's battles, they're going right for the heart of Google's business. On one side, you have its ad tech empire, basically the plumbing that makes online ads work. Regulators are looking at what seems like a huge conflict of interest, where Google is on both sides of the deal. And then on the other side, you've got AI. They're asking, hey, are these new AI overviews just scraping content from publishers? Are they using your work without giving anything back? And all of this pressure, all these investigations, it's led to the most extreme idea we've heard yet. For the very first time, regulators in the EU are actually out loud talking about a forced breakup. The idea that they could order Google to sell off huge parts of its advertising business because they're starting to believe that nothing else, not the fines, not the new rules, has really worked. So, when you put it all together, the old fines, the new DMA rules, this crazy threat of a breakup, it all boils down to one huge trillion-dollar question about the future of tech and the people who regulate it. Because after all of this, after 15 years of fighting, the reality is still this. Yeah, the internet in Europe definitely has more choice now, but Google's dominance, it's still absolutely overwhelming.
So that's what we want to leave you with. This is the big question that's going to define the next chapter, not just for Google, but for all of big tech. Can a government really fine a monopoly out of existence? Or is the tech itself always going to be one step ahead of the law?